Hello everyone, today I'll be narrating 3 new creepyposts that I found off of the Let's Not Meet subreddit. Liking this video and subscribing to my channel helps me a lot. After you've heard these stories, let me know what you think of them in the comments below. But without further ado, let's dive straight into their experiences.
These are their stories.
When I was 18, I was living in a small town. I was friends with rowdy skaters around and they helped connect me with this dude who sold weed. He was 29 years old I think at the time. He gave me pretty good deals and lived nearby. I wasn't driving at the time, so this was convenient for me. His name was Max. Max had always struck me as a weird dude. We had normal weed buying interactions that never lasted more than 10 minutes. Buy some weed, maybe smoke a bowl, that's it. He'd often tell me he could drop it off at my house, but I never let him because, as I said before, he was weird. I wasn't afraid of him, but was definitely aware that his offers to deliver to me were weird. One day in May of 2018, I was invited to a bonfire by the same rowdy skaters that introduced me to this guy. I had no idea he'd be there, nor was it important to me at all. I brought the guy I was dating at the time. I said hey to everyone including Max. We stayed for a couple hours and some of them played some music on their guitars. Nearing the time I was leaving the bonfire around 11 p.m, Max was getting upset about something and threw his guitar into the bonfire. I didn't know what he was angry or upset about and paid no mind to it. This happened as I was leaving with the guy I was dating. I went to bed and woke up to paragraphs on paragraphs of crazy texts from Max ranging from 1 a.m. to 5 a.m. Like a constant stream of texts stating things such as, "You know how much I loved you, you are cruel." He would go back and forth between saying, "I would give you the world if you'd let me," and "You really do deserve him though." He said really scary things like, "You are a predator and should be snubbed out, just wait," and "You are stuck, I will either love you or hate you to the fullest extent my powers behold. Right now I pray the worst death on you and that guy you're with." To top it all off, he said, "Losing you is like losing a mother to me." He told me to tell him I never loved him and that I wouldn't hear from him again if I did. So that's what I did. I said, "I never loved you, do not message me again." I left it at that. I didn't get a response, nor did I care to get one. Max had never expressed any romantic interest to me, asking me out or anything. This was all out of nowhere and he was 11 years older than me. I was barely 18. That night he cut his long hair off and posted photos naked on Facebook, curled up in fetal position talking about being a statue of shame. It's as if he had a breakdown, but I had no intention of causing that and didn't think I would even offend anyone by bringing this guy I was seeing. Everyone else seemed to like the guy that I brought. About a week later, Max texted me pretty late at night and asked if I had seen the flowers he spread along my sidewalk, saying that he stole every flower in the vicinity of my neighborhood that night. I asked how he knew where I lived and said I hadn't seen the flowers, so he must have had the wrong house. I also told him he shouldn't do that as I never felt anything for him and so on. He told me that he had heard I lived on the same block as another one of the skater guys I had and he wasn't wrong. The skater guy I lived by was on the other side of the block and I never walked that way, so I never saw the flowers. I blocked his number and didn't hear from him again for weeks. Weeks later, I woke up after a rough night and there were loads of flowers on the sidewalk right outside my house along with a little bouquet at the top of my walkway. I was pissed. I wasn't scared yet and stupidly I unblocked his number and texted him asking why there were flowers outside of my house. This confirmed that this indeed was where I lived. I still to this day feel so stupid for texting him and making it known that after weeks he had found my house. He responded saying, sounds nice, that was me." I blocked his number again. About a week later, I was out of town and my roommate texted me a photo of a heart with a peace sign inside of it and my name written under it drawn in chalk outside our house. When I got back into town, I went to the courthouse and began the process of getting a stalking order against him. When I left the courthouse, I went to Max's work and told him he needed to stop this behavior and that he was stalking me. He looked me in the eyes with no facial expression and said, "If you don't leave, I am calling the cops." I got angry and said loudly, "Call the cops, I was just talking to them about you," and left his work in a rage. Soon after this, I began driving again. I once drove by him and he noticed it was me. The next day, I woke up with my car covered in flowers. I presented my case to the judge and she put the stalking order in place. He was served with it by police officers and I thought that was that and he wouldn't be bothering me again. I was wrong. After the stalking order was served, he made several other chalk messages on my sidewalk, left random gifts for me like chalk and beheaded my little pony heads on beer bottles. I always brought these things to the police station, but they said I needed to catch him doing it, take a photo or get a security camera. camera. So I got a security camera and really hoped I would catch him. It turned out my security camera was stupid and I couldn't just watch the videos it took but had to skip through second by second by hand. It was an impossible task. I was terrified of leaving my house at night at this point. I never had my curtains open anymore and I was so frustrated that my livelihood was being taken away from me. Ultimately, I unblocked his number in hopes that he would text me directly violating the stalking order, and after a few days, it worked. He sent me a weird text saying, "Forgive me, we are charming, this is harming, let us try again." By now it's September of 2018 and he finally goes to jail. He is facing up to a year in jail and has to stay there until our court date. I finally start calming down. I am able to go outside at night, even if just to get into my car. I let myself have my curtains open sometimes. I am starting to feel alive again. Right when I start feeling secure in my small town life again, someone posted bail and he was released after only 3 months in jail, and I went back to living in fear. We still had court dates coming up and I was optimistic that he would serve more time for ruining my life for so long. His lawyer kept pushing the court date back to gather evidence, and after about 6 months of pushing it back, the state decided he wouldn't do anything more and closed the case basically. I had moved out of town 3+ hours away at this point, so he didn't actually have an option to continue this behavior. Living in this new place, I feel safe. I can walk at night and I don't have to have my curtains closed all the time. It's been over a year since they decided to close the case. About a month ago, he began responding to my friends' Instagram stories. Friends that live here in this new town, telling them how fond he is of me, etc. I have always had him blocked, but my Instagram isn't private, so he must have found them that way. I have since changed my account to private and he hasn't messaged any more friends of mine. I refuse to be fearful now, the way I was then. He will never find where I live or where I work now. However, my life is forever changed after this experience. I will always be more aware of people and their weird energy. He ruined my life for a year and I truly wish he had gotten that time in jail. He deserves it. So a 19-year-old female, was at a house party a couple days ago. I only really knew a couple of people there and it was packed. I hung around with my 2 friends there for a while having some drinks. After a while, my friends went into this room that everyone was hotboxing. I didn't go because I really didn't feel like drinking and being stoned at a party where I barely knew anyone, so I just mingled for a bit, then went on my phone talking to my other friends. I noticed this guy that keeps staring at me up and down and instantly felt my stomach sink. I instantly had a bad feeling about the guy. I looked back down at my phone and sent my location to my friends, just letting them know where I was because things were changing from feeling chill to sketchy. There were a bunch of cans of soda in the kitchen, so I got up to grab a Sprite instead of having any more drinks. As I'm there, the same guy that kept looking at me comes in and started trying to get me to take this drink in a red Solo cup. I was like, nah, I have a Sprite, thanks though. He kept trying though, and I was getting annoyed because he kept being super pushy about it, and I'm pretty blunt, so I just said, look, I don't want your drink or your company, and walked away. I thought that'd be the end of it and pushed it to the back of my mind as one of my friends came out from the hotbox room stoned and happy. We hung out some more and my friend wanted a cigarette, so I went out on the balcony with her. As we're there, she put her cigarettes on the ledge, and as she's talking gibberishly, her arm pushed her cigarettes off and they fell down into the yard. I was gonna go downstairs and outside with her to get them, but she told me she had to grab something from her car anyways and that she'd be right back. I decided just to wait there for her. I'm on my phone and hear the door open and I expected it to be her. As I'm about to say that was quick, I spin around and now I'm face to face with that guy from earlier. He just grabbed my face and kissed me, and I pushed at his chest and said, "Dude, did you not hear what I said?" He proceeded to say something in Spanish. I can't speak Spanish, but I could tell it was Spanish. I told him to screw off and went to push past him to go back inside, and he proceeded to push me up against the wall outside and try to kiss on my neck. That's when I pushed him away as hard as I could, but he then let go of my wrist and grabbed my throat hard while maintaining eye contact and smirking at me the whole time. Just when he used his other hand and grabbed my butt, my friend came back from getting her cigarettes, poked her head out, saw what was happening, and she tried to intervene, but he pushed her with his other hand. I heard her say, "Oh nah." She grabbed the closest guy to the door from inside and brought him out. Random heroic guy from inside then grabbed the crazy throat grabber, putting him in some type of hold, and started screaming at him. He got kicked out, pretty sure someone punched him in the face too. Everyone was super apologetic and said they didn't even know that guy and weren't sure who he even was. I wasn't about to call the cops or anything because I didn't want to get the party busted, but I went to the bathroom and immediately broke down crying. Called my friends. My friends here weren't sober enough to drive and they came to get me. I have a couple finger mark bruises on my neck still, and I'd hate to think of what would have happened had my friend been distracted by something and not came outside when she did. All I know is I'm not going to a party where I barely know anyone anymore. That was scary. This happened when I was 4 or 5 years old. I was at a rather large toy store with my dad and sister, who is 2 years older than me, so that I could pick out a birthday present for a friend of mine. My dad and I were looking at the Lego aisle they had available, while my sister was shuffling around, bored out of her mind. At some point she wandered away. I was looking at the box of a castle set, wishing that it was my birthday coming up, when my sister returned and tugged on my dad's arm. "What is it, sweetheart?" he asked without looking away from the box he was holding. I think he also wished it was his birthday coming up. "There's a man." "Oh, never mind, he's gone now." My dad looked at her, putting the box back on the shelf. "What man?" he asked. "There was a man who asked if I wanted to come see his puppy, and I said that I'd have to ask you first, but I don't know where he went." My dad took the box out of his hands and put it back on the shelf, then took my hand in his and put his other hand around my sister's shoulders. "Well, let's go find him," my dad exclaimed, and began leading us toward the checkouts. Now, like I said, this toy store was rather large, and we were walking pretty fast. When we got near the checkouts, my sister pointed at a man who was just about to leave the store and said, "That's him." I could see how she recognized him from behind, as he had very long hair. It went halfway down his back. I remember him having a black winter coat on, which was strange because it was a pretty warm day. We walked even faster until we were at the nearest checkout, and my dad said to us, "Stay here with this nice lady for a second," referring to the cashier. He then ran up behind the man, who was now almost out the door, and threw his hand on his shoulder so hard I could hear it. My dad spun him around to face him, then began yelling, "Where's this puppy you wanted to show my daughter?" People around started looking over at the commotion, and my dad continued, "You wanted to take my daughter to see your puppy. Where is it? I want to see the puppy too." The man was stammering and stuttering and trying to get away, but my dad had a firm grasp on the guy's shoulder. Turning his head to where we were standing, my dad yelled to my sister, "Is this the guy who asked you to come see his puppy?" My sister silently nodded her head and then looked at her shoes. I think she thought that she was in trouble. I didn't blame her. Our dad was yelling really loudly, "Is the puppy in your car? Where's your car? Is that it over there?" He pointed out the glass door into the parking lot. "Or is that your car? Is that where the puppy you wanted to show my 6-year-old daughter is?" I remember thinking that if he just let go of the guy, he could lead us to the puppy. Before I knew it, 3 men in yellow jackets had come. There was a word on their jackets which read security. My dad let go of the man and the security guards held him instead. My sister was crying by this point. My dad walked back to us, once again taking my hand in one of his own, and putting the other around my sister's shoulders. He asked the cashier if she had a phone he could use, and she took us to the office. He called our mom to come pick us up, then assured my sister that she was not in trouble. In fact, she was in the least amount of trouble anyone has ever been in the history of the world, simply by coming and asking for his permission to see the puppy. I asked him if we were still going to see it, and he just looked at me and said, "Sorry son, the puppy ran away." Our mom came in just a few minutes, and as we were leaving, there were police cars pulling up. "Are they gonna help find the puppy?" my sister asked my mom, but she said no, they're here for something else. After a while, I remembered this incident and recently asked my dad about it. Apparently when the cops searched his car, they found rope, duct tape, a knife, pliers, and a hacksaw. My dad and sister testified at his trial, and the guy got 20 years. Alright, so that's it. Hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, consider liking this video and subscribing to my channel. Let me know what you thought of these stories in the comments below. But as always,
Have a nice day.